This is your Wichita debut.
It is. It's our Kansas Miss Midwest debut.
Exactly. What's been your impression so far of the festival?
Well, so far I've been welcomed and it seems very warm and friendly, and I can tell there's a lot of huge support here for indie film and the arts, which is vital for people like me.
Wonderful. Well, we're very happy to have a little bit of spirit both from across the pond and from the Northwest here in town today for your film. Tell us a little bit about Her Name Is True and how you kind of came on that story.
Well, really, it's an intriguing story. It's a discovery of a woman who was actually doing rock photography pretty much before anyone else, especially in terms of women. I don't know about you, but I think most of us, when we think of rock photography, think it begins with Annie Leibovitz, and that was very much at the end of the 60s. Well, in fact, Jeannie Delaccio was before Annie Leibovitz, and she did it in a very distinct way, and no one knows about it, so I'm trying to change that. When I first met Jeannie, we spent several hours just talking and visiting, and she wanted to know about me, my life, my family, which is completely fine with me, but it immediately gave me an insight into clearly who she is and how she is. She loves people, she cares about people, and she really wants to know about you. And then when I went to interview all the musicians before we did any filming, just to get to know their background and how they had met Jeannie, this kept coming across all the time, that Jeannie was just kind of listening to them.
Really?
She didn't get out a camera for several hours. Among the first band she met, this is what they kept telling me, that they were just meeting with her in her living room, having coffee, tea and cakes, and then it was almost an afterthought. Let's go outside and take some pictures. Oh, would you mind climbing a tree? And to them at that stage, it seemed a perfectly natural thing to do.
I don't know if you're familiar with, we have another movie that's playing in the Grasscendo collection, a band called Death. And,
I actually know about that.
Yeah,
yes.
and it's interesting that both of your films, because they're both about these kind of subcultures, these artists, communities, and just when you thought you had learned everything there is to be learned about that period of time or that part of the country, it's we find out, that's not necessarily the case. So
yeah, and what I love about Jeannie's story is she's actually giving people an insight into the Northwest indie music scene before people actually identify with it normally, because people think about grunge, and Nirvana, but we're going back to a really distinctive music subculture in the early 60s. I mean, Jeannie was documenting the bands that gave us the rock anthem Louie Louie.
Yeah.
And everyone knows Louie Louie, but no one knows about Jeannie.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yet, and slowly working her way into
Tallgrass can help.
the consciousness, absolutely, whatever we can do.
Yeah, I want everyone in Kansas to like the Facebook page and tell the world.
Absolutely, we'll do our best.
Some girls from had been working at the Tacoma Library, and the community liaison officer there knew about the film, and I told him, and he brought them over. They were interns there, and I said, would you like to watch some filming? Because I really love mentoring and showing people what's going on, and they were listening to the stories that this guy, this musician, and was telling them, and were completely amazed. They had no idea. They're from that town, that city. They didn't know about that history, and they were fascinated to know about Jeannie and the photography, and it all came together. It was I could see how inspired they were. It was like a light went off in their heads. This is something they wanted to know more about, and they wanted to know why they didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And I think that always is a question for me as a documentary filmmaker. Is there something here that we don't know about? And in documentary, it's great if you can provoke and maybe ask new questions or just explore something that's unexplored, and I think that's what we've tried to do here.
No matter where we are, we can be from Wichita, Kansas, we can be from New York City, oftentimes,
or
London, exactly, and oftentimes we develop this this kind of mediocre perception of the place we came from, and usually it has nothing to do with the place itself, but our lack of connection to the history. And that's really
and
fascinating.
this is not history you're necessarily going to get in a classroom.
Yeah.
This is cultural history and arts stories that unfortunately you're probably not going to get in a classroom, but look at how inspiring and valuable they can be.
Right. And it's not only history, it's a living representation, and she's still doing it.
What you have in this film, what I hope I've got across is it's really a film about independent spirit, very much doing your own thing, never saying no. That is what these bands were doing. These were the guys that were the pre-runners to grunge. You know, they were punk before there was a name for it. And Jeannie Delaccio, middle-aged, just went out there and was hanging out with them, and she documented what they were doing. And I find that quite an extraordinary kind of parallel, if you like, that they were both being independent in different ways. And I think they supported each other's creativity. She took them seriously.
Yeah.